drops low in the palmetto sky. Friday night's calling and the towns go quiet. From Doug Shaw Memorial to John McKissick Field, Carolina football, it's the heart we feel. Pickup trucks line up, tailgates in a row, Hot Stadium's rocking, Abbeville's ready to go. The Sumter Gamecocks charge, Gaffney's standing tall, every small town's dreaming neath the lights of fall. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. In Gilbert, America, the bleachers fill with pride. Cheerleaders shout, the band's playing, no one's staying inside. The boys in pads hit hard, chasing that old dream. Under stadium lights, it's more than just a team. Mamas clutch their programs, daddies yell the calls, grandpas talk of legends in these hallowed football halls. From the low country marshes to the upstate's clay, four-quarter Friday lights the Carolina way. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, South Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. Shaw's roar to McKissick's sacred ground. Hot Stadium's fire, you can feel the sound. Sumter Gamecocks fly, Gaffney holds a line, J-Mo run the dang ball, we're screaming for a sign. Rivalries burn bright, the clock's ticking down. On four-quarter Friday, we're the talk of the town. When the whistle blows and the scoreboard fades away, the lessons from the field guide us every day. Teamwork, grit, and pride, it's more than just a score. Carolina football's what we're fighting for. From the PD rivers to the upstate's misty hills, four-quarter Friday gives our hearts a thrill. Four-quarter Friday, where the heart beats pound, South Carolina shuts down every town. From the first snap to the final play, we're living for the glory of a four-quarter Friday. So here's to the Palmetto boys, giving it their all on a four-quarter Friday. South Carolina stands
tall. Welcome to Four-Quarter Friday, part of the Chief Sports Network, talking South Carolina high school sports every Friday morning. Hosted by Justin Hall and Steve Hall. With weekly appearances from coaches, players, and media around the state. Let's go! Quarter. Here's Justin and Steve. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. Welcome in. Four-quarter Friday. It's the best Friday of the year. Justin Hall, Steve Hall, Shane Fiddler with us on a Friday morning. I've been informed by our boss, Jamie Bradford, that if the ratings drop within the first 10 minutes, Shane, you're gone. So just keep that in mind. White Knoll has a big matchup tonight on the road at Irmo. We'll get to 5A in just a moment. Hello to Roger. Hello to Brandon, our normal contributors in the chat box. Our regulars, we're glad you're with us. Roger's going to be at WL Varner tonight. BHP and Woodruff. We're going to talk about that one here in just a second. Brandon has Fairfield Central and Clinton. My Clinton Red Devils have a shot to play for a state championship. Bruins in because the South Florence Bruins have North Augusta tonight. There are great games all over the place. We're glad to talk about all of them. We are presented by the SCACA, the South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association. We announced that partnership yesterday on the morning show with Scott Early, and Steve sat down and had he sat down a couple of days ago, but last night it came out and had a conversation previewing basketball that's coming up. The Squeaking on the Hardwood is getting started this weekend, and it'll roll through the month of February. So we're excited about our basketball coverage that's coming up. That's right. It's the Bruin versus Craig Bowl tonight over in South Florence. We're starting tonight in 3A, or today in 3A, because coming up in our next segment, Chris Deering from Prep Red Zone will join us. We'll be talking 1A and 2A with him, and then we'll move on to 4 and 5A because 5A still has those two divisions. A lot of games to get to, and I just got to say, we're coming off of maybe the wildest night of high school football that I've maybe have seen in a long time, maybe ever, when it comes to me doing that high school scoreboard show on 107.5 with Elijah Campbell that Coach Fiddler has joined us on multiple occasions. Coach, you guys had a big one last week as well. Not a lot of folks were paying attention maybe to that White Knoll Lucy Beckham matchup. But real quick, just from your perspective, how was last Friday night over here at the bank?
Got to give Lucy Beckham a lot of credit. They showed up ready to play. Coach Smith and his crew had a great game plan. They did an awesome job of keeping the ball out of the Timberwolves' hands, limiting opportunities to put a bunch of points on the board and amplifying those mistakes on offense, right? Those 3 and outs that are caused by a holding call or just misexecution because you're not be able to get in a rhythm because Lucy Beckham's just on the field the whole time. Now, they only scored 10 points. Nick Pelham always has a great game plan. He's always going to do a great job against you no matter what. But, they kept him in the game, gave him a chance to win at the end. And, a lot of credit goes to that coaching staff and those players. Number 45 for them, I think his last name's LaMonica. He's a stud, man. He's a player. And Lucy Beckham, obviously, every year they get a little bit better and they have go a little bit further in the playoffs. And, we'll see how much better they get each year. And like I said, Coach Smith and his staff, shout out to them.
Yeah, that was a fun ball game to kind of keep track of. I wasn't getting much on the way of social media. I had to use my inside source, which is the guy that's above me on the screen, to talk about it. Shane, the athletic director at White Knoll High School. All right, Steve, I do want to mention this before we get going. Download the Chief Sports app. You can track all the scores tonight. You can stream some games. You can enter into the Fab Five contest as well. You can go. The store is closed. The pop-up store is closed. So if you didn't take advantage of that, just wait until it opens up again, and you can get your Chief Sports Network merch there.
Actually, I think we extended it a little bit, Justin.
Did we?
Yeah, I think they might have a little bit more time.
All right, I was under the impression of the 19th, so maybe my procrastination is going to pay off this time. So that's a good thing. So make sure you download the app. Make sure you stay locked in. Chief Sports coming up at 10 a.m. Got a preview show talking Coastal Carolina and South Carolina on my birthday tomorrow. I don't want to talk about it because I'm scared to death. All right, anyway, let's get into the 3A playoffs, Steve. I'm just going to go ahead and let everyone know that in 3A, in our bracket challenge, my 2 picks to play for a state championship are still alive, ladies and gents. They are still alive. We start big matchup up in Spartanburg, Powdersville, hosting Mountain View Prep. Gentlemen, I got a stat of the day for you. I'm kicking us off with a stat of the day. Mountain View Prep has won their first 2 games in the playoffs by a combined 2 points. 2 points. Meanwhile, Powdersville has outscored their opponents by a score of 96-7. Thoughts from anyone on if Mountain View Prep can stop this Powdersville offense right now?
Go ahead, Shane.
Coach Muster got to coach against him last year in the North-South game. His crew is rolling this year. Mountain View, obviously, second-year program. Coach Ramsey, those guys doing a great job. That should be I'm not sure if they match up in the regular season or not. I think they're in the same region. Not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure it was a great football game. If it was, I know tonight will be at Powdersville. Should be a rocking atmosphere, and I imagine there's going to be a lot of points scored in that one.
There should be, and Steve, we talked about this right before we came on the air. If you're Powdersville, you've got to find a way to minimize that Mountain View Prep offensive attack. That you're accounting for 350 yards just from the quarterback position alone. So I don't know, Steve, if you would agree with this, but the key here is, before we get to our next matchup, the key here for Powdersville is identifying where you would rather him beat you. Does that make sense what I'm saying? We've got to neutralize something here. We probably won't be able to neutralize both. If we do, great, but we got to key in on one facet of that game, whether it's in the air or on the ground, that we have to make sure our defense can stay on top of.
Yeah, and I'll say for Powdersville, I mean, quarterback, limiting quarterback McCory and Anderson Wallington for Mountain View is going to be important. Last week, you kind of hit on it. He went 322 through the air for 4 touchdowns and added, I believe it was over 80 yards rushing. So if you're Powdersville, you probably want to try to keep them on their ground. It sounds like they like to throw the ball. Based on that stat line, at least. Yeah. And, almost every team that we're going to be talking about tonight in these matchups are teams that play really good defense, number one. Number two, everybody wants to run the football. Almost everybody that has made it this far runs the football very, very well. And so it'll be interesting. I probably would pick – if I had a gun to my head, probably pick Powdersville at this point. Yeah. But, as we saw last Friday night, you just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't. The final 8 teams in all of these brackets are the cream of the crop, as Roger mentions in our chat. And that's exactly right. This is the best Friday of the year, simply because these are the best teams. And usually there's no question about it when it comes to high school football. You want to talk about running the football, teams that like to run the football? How about this matchup? Belton Honeypath and Woodruff. Woodruff is hosting this game. Aiden Gibson, 311 yards on the ground last week on 36 carries. Workhorse type stuff for Mr. Gibson, and a really great performance from him. And they're going to need, guys, every bit of that rushing attack to try to go up against BHP. And no offense to Powdersville or Mountain View, but this would categorize for me as basically an upper state championship style matchup, because I just think both of these teams are bona fide contenders that can go on and play for a state championship, and I have picked Woodruff to do that.
I would agree with that, Justin, and also of note, Woodruff quarterback Connor Davis had a good night too last week, going 14 of 19 for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns. Aiden Gibson catches the ball well out of the backfield. He is everything for them. Now they've won several games this year with him being hurt, and so he's back healthy, of course, right now. And Rogers kept us really tied into that situation every week. So thank you, Roger. Yeah. Shane, what do you think about this game? How do you see this game playing out?
Something I like to look at is when you're in that final 8, who have you played that's still in the final 8? And Woodruff's beaten 2 teams that are left, Clinton and Mountain View. BHP, they've beaten They've beaten Westside. So these guys have been battle tested this year. They've played good teams. They've beaten good teams. I know BHP's been the top of the RPI all year for 3A, and Woodruff brought in an offensive coordinator from Texas to help their attack this year, and both of those that's really paying off for them. He's Chris Lewis, great coach that they brought in. So that's gonna be another great matchup. BHP, they're having one of those magical years, but so is Woodruff. Woodruff only lost to Wren, but BHP is still undefeated. So that game in Woodruff, that's going to be. You said someone's going to that game, Roger.
Yeah, Roger.
That game, he's going to be. I bet he's going to have some great updates tonight when he calls in the 107.5 the game for you on that one.
Look at that. Thank you, Shane. Roger is our resident Woodruff expert, and MJ Earl, he makes the point. Really good running back as well for BHP. This game might not be a running clock, but this game might be the first one done tonight, just because these teams, both of them, love to run the football, and they do it well. All right, we go to the lower state side here as we get ready to wrap up the 3A bracket and bring in Chris Deering here shortly. Oceanside Collegiate and Dillon tonight. Oceanside Collegiate, obviously, everyone outside of maybe that program and outside of the 3A bracket bubble. We'll still talk about Oceanside Collegiate taking down Goliath earlier this year in Dutch Fort. But when you look at this kind of matchup, Coach, I mean, Dillon's a brand. When I look at these matchups, you look at brands and helmets. Really, Dillon is that brand, and Oceanside, having won a state championship already and trying to stamp themselves in 3A as being the guy in 3A. Again, another really great matchup tonight on the lower state side.
Yeah, Oceanside, they have proven that they can compete against the 5A best of the best. I mean, the Irmo game was unbelievable as well. They had a bunch of turnovers in that one. So Oceanside clearly is a great football team that could compete at a higher level. But one thing about Dillon, as someone who's had to take a team and match up with Dillon in the playoffs, is you said that brand, that logo, those kids were born believing they're going to win in November. So they are not going to lay down for Oceanside. That game should be a battle. I know all week those Dillon kids, they probably feel really motivated that they're the 4 seed and Oceanside's the 1, and they're excited to get up there because they want to get another shot at Loris if they get the opportunity.
Absolutely, and that jumps right to this, Steve. Maybe the game of the night across the entire state. I could argue maybe the game of the week in 3A is an undefeated Loris and an undefeated Newberry. And I got some stuff for you here because our buddy Uncle Lou Bejak does a great job. This is the first meeting ever between these two teams. Newberry looking for its first trip to an upper or lower state, depending on which side of the bracket they're on, championship game since 2021. Loris is going for 2 in a row. Before last year, they hadn't been there since 2014. Newberry has trailed at halftime in both playoff games already this year. So they're playing. We talked about this before the show, Steve, playing with a little fire. But Kenton Caldwell has passed for almost 2,000 yards. He's rushed for over 1,000. He has 41 touchdowns on the season. But Zamir Gerald has thrown for 2,200 for Loris. He's got 41 touchdowns as well. So this is the kind of game, Steve, where the quarterbacks are going to be the stars of the show with these two offenses trying to go up and down the field on each other. And it might come down to who makes that last stop.
Yeah, man, this has been a fun season to watch Newberry. It's been a little while since Newberry had a season like this, and I've got them picked for the state championship game. We'll see if that ends up being right. They have a tough road tonight against Loris, and then whoever wins that Oceanside Dillon matchup. I mean, this is one of the tougher sides of the brackets in the entire state, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. Coach, any thoughts on this Newberry team that has been battle-tested and has done it all this season, really, but you've got a Newberry team and a Loris team that are just so equally matched that this almost feels like it's billed as a state championship game, seemingly. But even if you go through this tough test, you still got 2 more games to win just to crown yourself a state champion.
Yeah, with other teams that are state championship quality as well.
Exactly.
The one thing about Newberry that every coach in the state wishes they had is that Division I talent they have at offensive skill.
Mm-hmm.
And with the weather is going to be nice and warm tonight, so that bodes well for the style offense Newberry runs. Mm-hmm. But Coach Mance and Loris, they got a long bus ride, but I promise you they will come in there. They're going to be physical. They're going to be tough. They got that quarterback, Moon Gerald, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Unbelievable player. He's probably been Region Player of the Year a couple times. They will not come in there. They will not lay down. They will not back down to the challenge of those D1 players that they're going to go against with Coach Jeter's squad. And that should also be a great football game. That's 4 great football games in 3A. I see all of them coming down to the wire for many different reasons, but that one should be electric and a lot of fun to watch if you're there.
It should be exciting. We're just getting started. That's just the first set of games we're talking about. When we come back, Chris Deering from Prep Red Zone joins us. We'll talk 1A and 2A playoffs next on 4 Quarter Friday.
It's football season. The Barn Dominium Company wants to help you build your dream home with your dream space. to watch the games and entertain your friends and family. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com for floor plans, photo galleries, locations, and to learn more about us.
Oh man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Check the statewide high school scoreboard every Friday night on the Chief Sports app.
This is Four Quarter Friday, hosted by Justin Hall and Steve Hall, taking a deep dive into high school athletics in South Carolina every Friday morning. Part of the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back in. It's Four Quarter Friday on a Friday morning because that's how this works and it makes sense. Justin Hall, Steve Hall, White Knoll Athletic Director Shane Fiddler, our special guest throughout the hour, and joining us for this segment of the program, glad to have him on, from Prep Red Zone. Chris Deering joins us. Chris, I'm normally talking to you on the phone on Fridays, not necessarily seeing you in person. So glad to see you this morning. Happy you're with us. It's the best time of year, isn't it, Chris?
You gotta love it right now. It's playoff football. We got a lot of good games on the docket tonight. I tell people every year, and Coach Fiddler, I think you can back this up. If you get to practice on Thanksgiving morning, that's a treat. And these teams, whoever wins tonight, will get that opportunity. This is a big night going forward to crown the state champions here in a few weeks.
No doubt about that, Chris. And you told me that probably on the phone years ago with Tommy and I doing the scoreboard show, and I've held on to that and think about it this Friday in particular, because I'm like, man, if you win tonight, you're practicing on Thanksgiving, then you can go eat your turkey, and then you're playing the next night, and there's nothing better than that, playing for a chance to go play for a state championship. All right, now on Prep Red Zone, you wrote up some pieces on the lower state side of 1A and 2A. So we're going to try to fit both brackets in here in this segment, which tall order, but we'll do what we can. I want to start where you were writing about. So let's jump to that lower state side, and let's talk Cross and Johnsonville. I went with my guy Lance, who might be in the chat box, he might not be. And aside from my better judgment, I picked Johnsonville to play for a state championship. I'll tell you, I don't feel great about that, knowing they got to go through Cross, and I should have thought ahead more. But what do we need to be looking for in this matchup between the Trojans and the Flashes?
Well, Johnsonville's going to want to come down to Cross, and they want to run the football. They got a running back, Davis. He's really good. Never could get Johnsonville's season stats, but I know last week he ran for 141 and 2 touchdowns. But he's got a couple guys in the backfield with him, Jameer Ross and Jay McFadden, that they'll be able to help run the football. And the quarterback, he don't throw it much, Larkin Powell, but he's able to, mix in the pass every now and then to keep defenses honest. But, man, that Cross team, they are absolutely a beast on defense. I think they're allowed about 5 points a game, about 4 or 5 shutouts on the season. It starts on that side of the ball with Caden Ramsey, the USC commit. I think South Carolina wants him as a tight end, but he can do a little bit of everything. He plays safety for him. I saw Cross earlier this year. When you got a big 6'4", 6'5" guy back playing safety, that's pretty intimidating. He's got 6 interceptions this year. but he's got 19 over the course of the last 2 seasons. And so he's a ball hawk, and they got some other guys on that defensive side of the ball. I love their line, the guys on the line. They got some good defensive linemen too that don't get, and those kids play both ways. They don't come off the field. They're offensive linemen on the offensive side, defensive linemen, and they're pretty tenacious. And Cross wants to run the ball too. Mekhi Green, he's been their guy this year. He's got about 1,500 yards, and then Tyler Harris, at quarterback. He's got Ramsey as a big target on the outside. So this could be a good matchup. But I tell you, I do like this Cross team. And now that Abbeville got beat last week, I think 1A is wide open at this point.
I agree with you 100%. Steve and I were talking before the show this morning about what game is he going to. I don't get to go to these games. I'm in a studio talking about him, but he was trying to think, and he said, man, Bamberg's not that far of a drive. Carvers Bay and Bamberg Earhart, Chris, another game that's just, man, you just salivate when you look at these matchups thinking these are state title worthy matchups tonight, and this is another great one.
Yeah, I mean, again, talking about defense, Bamberg Earhart's only allowing 4.5 points a game. So that they've been good all season, but this is good. Obviously, by far, this is going to be their toughest test. Kennard Hayward's almost at 2,500 yards rushing for Carvers Bay, and they got the big offensive line with Zion Giles, the USC commit, leading the way up front. But they got Xavier Frederick, some other guys that can really, make holes for those running backs. And, I don't think Carvers Bay is going to come in here and want to throw it a whole lot. But, if they have to, I think they're capable of doing that. They got a couple receivers and other running backs, and Julius McCray and Zion Reed. So they could be really good. But the numbers, you look at the defensive numbers for Bamberg Earhart, they're off the charts, only allowing us 4.5 points a game. I think they've only allowed one team to reach double figures in this season, and that was Barnwell way back in September. But you look at their quarterback, man, Brian McMillan has, I didn't realize how good he was until I started watching some of his huddle film at the beginning of the playoffs, and then he's a kid that don't come off the field. Last week he threw for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns, had a 90-yard pick six and 14 tackles. That's pretty damn good for your quarterback to do that on both sides of the ball. He's over 3,200 yards passing on the season, and so that's a really good team. And then they got some running backs in Jalen McGraw and MJ Can, the wide receivers Charles Anthony Williams, Jason Yeomans. Those guys can just go and get it. So this could be a test for both teams. I'm gonna be honest. I cannot bet against Bamberg Earhart right now. Defense wins championships, and I think that's where we are right now in 1A. I think you get me personally. I think you get a Cross Bamberg matchup next week, and I think that would be off the charts good, and that might be where I have to go. I haven't decided yet, but got to see how things shake out tonight. But that would be a classic battle, I think.
Where are you going to be tonight, Chris?
I'm going to Heathwood, going to the SCHSL Championship, Heathwood Hall, and
good for them. Good for them. How about Heathwood Hall?
It's not Berkeley.
Yeah, I mean it's insane how Heathwood ended that streak, dating back to 2009. Did a lot of great stuff this season. It probably should have nipped Hammond twice at this point, but at least they got him in the one that counted. From the resident Hammond apologist, Steve, you want to hit on the Upper State real quick? We'll rapid fire these on the 1A side here, especially with Louisville coming off of a barn burner.
Well, actually, I had a quick question before we moved on to the Upper State real quick. Chris, how do you see this game going down in the Carvers Bay Bamberg? You think it's going to be low scoring? I mean, everything on paper seems to think this is going to be kind of just like a very defensive battle. Running the football. I mean, both these teams want to run the football, but both teams have pretty good defenses too. What do you see? How do you see it shaking out? Yeah,
I think it's going to be low scoring. I do think somebody's going to get to around 20, and that's probably going to win it. And again, I think Bamberg's got a little better passing attack than they do running attack right now. They got a couple backs I think one's around 800 yards, one's around 700 yards. But, the quarterback, like I said, he's over 3,200 yards passing. He can run it as well. So that's a difficult matchup for anybody. So I like their chances. If Carver's Bay, their best chance is to hold on to the football, have a 9, 10, 11, 12 play drive, and take some time off the clock and keep that Bamberg offense on the sideline.
Chris, before we wrap up on the 1A division bracket, and Coach Fiddler, love to hear your thoughts on this too. But, personally, I'm looking at the Lamar and Louisville teams advancing tonight. How do you all see these games shaking out? And Chris, if you have any kind of thoughts on these games, let us know what your thoughts are.
First off, C.A. Johnson, congrats to them getting where they've done. Rodney Barr came up. He has been around the Midlands. He's back. He's done a great job there. Do not sleep on HKT. Jermaine Derricott, former SC State Bulldog, right? I coached with him at Eau Claire. Those boys will be ready. They're tough. They will bring a fight to Lamar, and they're going to be well coached. First-year coach of Lamar, him getting this far, how are they going to handle it? But you said earlier about brands, Lamar's a brand. So,
for what Coach Fiddler just said, this Louisville team went into Abbeville and beat them, and anybody that does that, has got to be the odds-on favorite, I think, at this point. And they got a running back, Jacorion House, and we got a reporter at that game last week on Prep Red Zone. Jed Blackwell was there, and he was texting us during the game saying that he was raving about that kid. He's really good. So C.A. Johnson, they played each other earlier in the year. It was a big win for Louisville. So we'll see how this one pans out. And then on the other side, Lamar and HKT, I think is going to be a great one. I'm like Coach Fiddler, do not sleep on this HKT team. In our rankings all year, I think I had them pretty much higher than where they fell in the rankings every time I sent my poll in. So we'll see if I'm a little bit smarter than everybody else in the state. Probably unlikely, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I put you ahead of a few others, and then we see where it shakes out. Really quickly in 2A, because I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, I got 4 brackets to get to and 2 more segments, and my brain is starting to fry a little bit. Just looking at this 2A bracket, Chris, really quick, what's the game of the night in 2A, and why is it Chester and Strom Thurmond?
That's going to be a good one. I was looking at the 2A bracket earlier this week when I was doing my previews, and I could see any of the 8 teams remaining winning this whole thing. And typically at this stage, you can rule out a team or 2 or 3, but I could see any of these 8 teams that's left winning this thing. And so I think you can have a good night of football all across the board. Man, it's tough. I don't even know who I would pick in any of those 4 games tonight. It's that close. That's how I feel. These games are probably, we had some blowouts in the first couple of rounds. I think you see a lot more closer games tonight, and I think in these 4 games you see teams that's going to really match up well with each other, and it's going to be very competitive to the end.
And I think that Clinton Fairfield Central game, I joke about Chester and Strom, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the Red Devils and the Griffins tonight. Should be a great matchup up there in Clinton. As always, if you're making the drive up there, just drive up early. Stop by Blue Ocean. It's right off the exit. It's the best seafood you're going to get inland. I promise. It's really good. They put the hush puppies out on the table like it's chips and salsa. You'll thank me later. I promise. And Coach Fountain even vouched for me on the show last Friday night, guys. He did. He said, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'm not joking. Chris Deering from Prep Red Zone, we appreciate it, my friend. Enjoy watching a state champion get crowned tonight. Who knows? Maybe Heathwood Hall finishes it off and they get crowned a state champion tonight. That's a tough matchup against Northwood Academy, though. That's going to be a really good football game down there at SC State. I
think so, too. And it should be a good one. And Coach Fiddler, I heard your jab earlier about the Berkeley Stags. I'll be there next week when they're playing at Irmo.
No!
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Y'all have a great weekend.
You too. Chris Deering from Prep Red Zone on with us, taking one final jab at the White Knoll Timberwolves. We'll be back. We've got 4A, we've got 2 divisions in 5A to get to. All of that next on 4 Quarter Friday.
Palm Casual Outdoor Patio Furniture proudly supports high school athletics across South Carolina. If it's time to make your outdoor space the best it can be, with lifetime warranties and guarantees, visit one of our Palm Casual stores in Myrtle Beach, Bluffton, Somerville, or Mount Pleasant. PalmCasual.com. PalmCasual.com. Turn on the lights. It's Friday night.
At Moultrie Insurance, our agents are working for you. Our commercial lines of coverage are well sourced and intimately chosen. We offer commercial lines of coverage such as business owners, umbrella, property, auto, or general liability coverage, and evaluate every option to find what fits you best. Like a good offensive coordinator, we will draw up the plays, but only run with what you feel comfortable. Get in touch with our quarterback, Perry Orth, or our head coach, Frank, by visiting MoultrieINS.com. MoultrieINS.com.
It's the 4 Quarter Friday High School Show on the Chief Sports Network. Proudly covering high school athletics across the state of South Carolina. With accurate, trusted analysis, in-depth interviews with coaches, media, and players, and quality information. Hosted by Justin Hall and Steve Hall. Now back to the show. Here's Justin and Steve.
Welcome back to the 4 Quarter Friday show on this beautiful November day as we get into the round 3, the quarterfinals of the South Carolina High School Football League playoffs. And just before we move on to 4A, Justin, I wanted to just have a few quick notes for Fairfield Central at Clinton.
Yep.
The Griffins last week, they won 36-0. They had forced 4 interceptions. Okay, they have a defensive score. All right, Caden Diggs and receiver Takarius Shannon, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, connected on 3 touchdowns. Clinton had a 19-point third quarter put on them by Saluda, but ends up obviously winning the game. The Red Devils have rushed for nearly just 5 yards short of 4,300 yards and 61 touchdowns so far, averaging 9.4 yards per attempt. So some key things to look out for tonight. Does that continue? Yeah. Chester at Strom Thurmond. Okay, some defensive stats, all right, for Strom Thurmond this year. They have 125 tackles for a loss, 17 forced fumbles, and 5 interceptions, 24 total sacks on the year. Bryson Coleman has 82 tackles for 5 sacks. Grayson Smith for Strom, 52 tackles with 5 sacks. So their defense is playing very, very well this year. Strom's Bryce Sean Lee is efficient when throwing the football to Caden Simpson over on the edge right there. 93 for 161, 1,600 yards, and he's got 19 total touchdowns. Chester has had 143 yards and 2 touchdowns for Caleb Feaster on 13 carries. I'm not going to even try to pronounce his first name, but Taylor ran an additional 9 times for 91 yards. You remember how I said earlier in the show that all these teams like to run the football this far into the year? The Cyclones defense held the great Amadre Wooden to 62 yards on just 13 carries, leaving him just 5 yards shy of 2,000 on the year. So just a few quick notes on those 2 games before we move on.
What a career he's had.
No doubt about it.
Justin, I remember sitting with you last year and them calling in and talking about how many yards Lou Bajak called in, how many yards he had for that season. I mean, what a career that kid has had.
He became the all-time leading rusher for Batesburg-Leesville. Steve, what was it, with about 4 weeks left to go in the year, I feel like?
Yeah.
And he passed his uncle to do it.
Wow.
Amadre Wooden's going to be a really good player at the next level wherever he plays. I'll put it that way. Wherever he chooses to go, he's going to be an impact player at the collegiate level. The kid can run the football. He's got a high motor. 4A playoffs, because we're saving 5A and we're saving specifically Division II for the end for different reasons. All right, let's start on the lower state side of this thing, man. It's the Bruin Craig Bowl, and it's South Florence, and it's North Augusta. North Augusta handled Gilbert last week. Shane, you were part of that region for several years for with your Our Airport Eagles. That's a tough region to get through, and North Augusta is probably the cream of the crop right now in that region, them in gray.
Yes.
This matchup, though, you talk about brands, team, and I've said this about South Florence all year, guys. Steve, you've heard me mention this, and Shane, maybe you have too. South Florence, that team that wins in the regular season, but then you look up in late October and you go, wow, they're sitting there with a loss or undefeated, and they just kind of ho-hummed their way through the year. And here we go, a big-time matchup with North Augusta having to drive down I-20. And when I say drive down I-20, I mean literally almost to the end of I-20 to go take on South Florence tonight. But this should be a great matchup. Wouldn't you agree, Coach?
Rematch of last year's lower state championship game where North Augusta went up 3 touchdowns in the first quarter and South Florence clawed their way back. You know, one thing I like about South Florence is they size their kids up for their championship rings in the summer. That's how much they believe. And I think that'll show tonight. I think they have a great team. North Augusta has a lot of great players. Coach Bush does a great job, and I'm sure they're looking for revenge from last year's lower state championship.
No doubt about that. Steve, looking down at the other matchup in lower state, the winner of that game will get the winner of Gray Collegiate and Hilton Head. How about the Seahawks? A great year for Hilton Head. Where would you place their odds? Again, these aren't real betting odds, and if you bet on high school football, the number calls you. But where would you place the odds on Hilton Head nipping Gray Collegiate tonight? Gray's really good. I mean, let's just say it. I know everyone can have their different opinions on different things, and that's okay. We're not here to talk about that today. Gray's a really good football team, and they beat Hartsville by what, 20 last week? 21 points at home. That's a really good football team. How does Hilton Head get it done tonight?
Well, they're pretty balanced from everything I've seen so far this year. It's interesting when you have these teams meeting this far into the year, and they've had different strengths of schedule. Coach Fiddler mentioned that earlier in the show. I want to say that Gray's probably had a tougher road to this point. If I were to put odds on something, I probably can't do that, to be honest. Like if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I probably will pick Gray in this. But you just never know. I mean, Hilton Head's played some really good teams as well. I mean, Bluffton's a really good team. May River's a good team down there. They do really good things, all different. Of course, we mentioned earlier in the year, I think May River had thrown 5 passes all season or something crazy like that.
Right.
But Hilton Head does seem to play really good defense this year, and he's had coach has had a lot of players go and play college football. So it looks like he has got another good team this year, so it should be a good matchup.
It's a rematch on the upper state side, South Point and AC Flora. I've got some notes there. The Fighting Tommy Moody's, my pick to win a state championship. Actually, I've got them winning it all this year for whatever. No, maybe I can't remember. Steve,
Flora did give South Point, I think, one of their best games of the year outside of Northwestern.
No doubt about it. AC Flora led that game 12-0 early on, and then South Point just clawed their way back. Overall, South Point is 3-1 against AC Flora. The last time, before last week, the last time AC Flora won a road playoff game was at South Point back in 2020 during the COVID year. Jalen Simmons had 336 yards rushing last week for AC Flora, and you ready for this? Has 762 yards rushing over his last 4 games, and that gets him to a total of 1,237 this year. Roper Winsky, 29 touchdowns. He needs 188 yards passing tonight to get to 3,000 on his career. Charlie Scott, Joshua Davis, Kendall Bird, Blake Batet, all of them have at least 500 yards receiving. But, of course, you look at South Point, it starts with Jazavian Currents, Anthony Baxter on the offensive line. Both guys are committed to play for the Gamecocks. They could probably use them sooner rather than later. Currents had 265 yards through the air, over 100 on the ground last time they played against AC Flora. He's thrown for over 2,200 yards. He's accounted for 33 touchdowns. He also, how about this, guys? The quarterback has 33 touchdowns. He also has 72 tackles on the defensive side of the football. That's just, if you're coaching this team, coach, if let's say you're AC Flores head coach.
Mm-hmm.
What's your message to your team tonight going on the road to South Point, a team that you've already seen, a team that you led by almost 2 possessions earlier this year, but then they came back and kind of handled you in the second half? What's your message to your team tonight knowing an upper state championship appearance is on the line?
Well, I know when you're showing the film from the previous game, you're showing all the good that happened so your players believe, right? And then you're talking about what we got to do to maintain that good throughout 48 minutes of football. I'm sure the game plan tonight will include tight ends and taking some time off the play clock and doing everything you can to keep their offense off the field. There's a reason that Jazavian Currents is a Mr. Football finalist for the things that you just mentioned.
Yep.
So what you want to do, you want to play very physical. You want to wear them down. You want to frustrate South Point, and you got to hope the ball bounces your way. You know, when you get to this point in the season, ball's got to bounce your way a little bit.
It certainly does. One more matchup here, a local flavor, a really local Midlands flavor to the 4A bracket, because I'm including North Augusta in that. North Augusta, Camden, and AC Flora, 3 of the 8 teams reside in the Midlands, or in the so 4 of 8 reside in the Midlands or the CSRA. Last matchup here in the upper state side is Camden going to West Side tonight. And guys, the Rams have kind of found it under Bear Woods, which grade A+ name for a quarterback, Bear Woods. Cutter's younger brother. Camden, though. Let's talk about Camden really quick. Took care of Greer, which we expected, I think. I think all of us expected Camden to get past Greer. But then to go on the road to Daniel, who had to work themselves past Dreer, Steve, for a litany of reasons. Dreer was, Coach Corey Jenkins had those kids playing up there, playing with a lot of heart that night. Daniel gets by them, but then Camden comes in and throttles them. And now Camden gets West Side, a West Side team that's playing a lot better, that won their region, winning, I think, 4 or 5 straight to end the year. And they're kind of rolling. They handled Wren by what was it, 5 touchdowns last week. Your thoughts heading into this Camden West Side game tonight, Steve?
Well, you know, it's not a surprise, right, that a team coached by Brian Remph is playing deep into the playoffs. I mean, it's like clockwork. I mean,
yep.
Was I surprised that they beat Daniel after Daniel struggled with Dreer in the first round? No, but you know, I was a little surprised. I mean, Daniel's had a good year. I mean, they've been really good all year, and they kind of fizzled out there.
Steve, with that, Camden Daniels, the state championship rematch from a couple times, Camden got a lot of frustration out, and it's got to be tough to be that new Daniels staff, because they've never been knocked out of the playoffs this early in a long time.
Yeah. Nathan Martin, who calls into our high school scoreboard show, mentioned that. And when he called in, he literally just breathed out and said, this is years of losing to this team. We finally kind of slayed the giant tonight and did it in convincing fashion. And I don't know what that does to them tonight. I mean, does that free you up if you're that team? That frees you up to go.
I watched Camden play in person this year, and Steve, you were there on the sideline for that game. They punch you in the mouth and do not let up. And you said West Side, they have figured it out. They played a tough schedule early, and they get better every week. It's a contrast of 2 styles. West Side's going to want to put the ball in the air, throw it around, and Camden's going to want to get in a street fight. So that's a tough place to play up there in West Side. Probably a little colder up there than we'll be here in the Midlands too. I've done it. I've been up there for those games.
Just a bit nippier up there for sure. Sorry, Steve.
Justin, let's finish up 2A real quick. We got to move fast. We got 5A to go over soon, and let's go ahead and knock Hampton County and Manning and Central and Philip Simmons. Coach, I know you were in the Low Country for a while. What do you see in this Philip Simmons Central game?
Well, Philip Simmons, they've been there before, right? Just in the last few years, they've been at this part of the playoffs. So their experience, that coaching staff, they've been pretty consistent for a few years. That they'll be prepared for this. But Central, they have a lot of talent. They've had a great season. So I'm not sure who's hosting that game. I don't see the seeds or the H's on there. But I know that Philip Simmons is hosting. That's a tough ride for Central, getting down there at Daniel Island. They probably don't know about that Charleston traffic. So if they're listening, they leave a little bit earlier than they're already planning. But That should be interesting there. Philip Simmons' experience for Central's speed and talent. And then Hampton County, they are built for this moment. They put those Estill and Wade Hampton together. Rob Hanna, they are built for this. They are ready for it. They've played teams to prepare them for this. But Reggie Kennedy's got experience in playoff football, so that should be an interesting matchup as well.
It's going to be a good one. 2A gets insane. Steve, do you want to hit a break and come back and get to the 5A, and we just roll along with these 8 games when we come back from break, or do you want to try to get through?
Let's get it through, man. We got a crunch time. I don't want to take any shine off of these matchups here. So,
all right, well, here we go.
Let's go first to Berkeley hosting Myrtle Beach.
I tell you what, I picked the Stags to play for a state championship. I am not backing off of that at all, but I like what Coach Mickey Wilson has done with Myrtle Beach. They won a nip tuck game last week against West Florence. That was a really great football game. The Knights battled in that one. I got to take Berkeley because I picked them to play for a state championship. I'm not backing off the Stags now, especially after what Chris Deering dropped here a couple minutes ago against Shane. He wants to play the Irmo Yellow Jackets. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but we shall see. But I like Berkeley tonight. Very physical football team. They've been one of the best teams all year in the state that no one's talking about. I mean, they've just been solid all year.
And just a note here, quarterback Henry Rivers for Berkeley has 955 yards passing, 607 yards rushing, and 20 total touchdowns. I would think that Berkeley's coaching staff is going to be on them a lot this week and tonight, saying finish. They had a couple of games this year on defensively where they let teams back in. Offensively, they didn't finish them off. The Stratford game, is a real good example of that, where Stratford came back from 17-0 at the half to win 21-17. And we're going to talk a lot about Stratford here in a second. Coach, anything else to add for this matchup?
It's tough to go to Berkeley and win. I've done it before. White Knoll did it last year in the playoffs, but they put you in a double wide trailer. You got a bathroom about as big as my desk here to deal with. And, they play those mental mind games when you go out there and they run out there and hit the deer sign. So it's always tough to win those games at Berkeley. But Myrtle Beach, they're one of the few teams that could run with the Stags. But the Stags, coaching staff coming up from Florida, they'll be ready for this. They're used to playing this deep in the playoffs.
Let's go next with Irmo hosting White Knoll for a rematch. White Knoll played, at the W.C. Hawkins earlier this year. It was a tough matchup. Coach, what do you see? I mean, we know you're biased, but how's this game going to shake out? Both these teams know each other very well at this point.
What a football game it was the first time. Bodies were getting picked up off the turf. That's how physical it was. Holding Irmo and their 50-point a game offense to 14. What a task by Nick Pelham and the defensive staff here at White Knoll. Offensively, had 3 trips to the red zone, only came away with 3 points in those trips. So find a way to convert those. But Aaron Brand, he's going to be ready. He's going to have them boys ready. They're motivated. That D line is unbelievable for Irmo. I mean, probably the best D line in the state, I would venture to say. Offensive skill, there's speed everywhere for them. But the White Knoll Wolves want this game. They want this rematch. I think everybody in the state wants this. Look at moving the chains. They only had this game on their radar. It ain't your game of the week, but it's the game of the week. It's the game of the week. 2 great teams, 2 teams that play in region, 2 teams that want to play each other in an important moment with a lot of stakes on the line.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in the game of the week takes from a lot of folks. Not necessarily that one, but just in terms of I don't know how you narrow it down. I'll put it that way. I don't know how you narrow this down to 5. We stopped doing it because I'm like every game's a game of the week when you get to this point in the playoffs. But this is one that we were looking at even when that first game happened, Steve. Right? We're like these 2 teams could meet again with either a shot to go to a state championship game or to get to a lower state. I'm really looking forward to this game. That game was fun to track a couple of weeks ago. I thought White Knoll was going to nip them. It'd be, again, a contrast of styles, in my opinion, although Irmo is kind of leaning more. They score a lot of points, no question. They're leaning more on that defense than they did in years past.
So good. Defense
they're not just going to go outscore you, but that defensive line, as you mentioned, Coach, is just loaded with talent. On the other side, let's go down to the lower side of the upper state bracket. Indian Land going to TL Hanna, the home of radio. And Indian Land shut me up last week, Steve. I
Yeah,
said I thought
me too.
Hillcrest would win that game by multiple scores, and all Indian Land did was say, hey 40-10. 40-10. We're going to take them to the woodshed with our defense, and we're going to score on them. Should be a great matchup tonight between Indian Land and T.O. Hanna. That might be an underrated game. Hanna took care of Greenville last week in a rematch game. Didn't have to worry with them very much at all. And then the big one in Upper State, Northwestern, Coach Paige Wolford, hosting Gaffney. Gaffney handled Greenwood last week in a back-and-forth game. It was a fun one. Now Gaffney's got to go play the Trojans, and Xavier Means, Northwestern trying to repeat as state champions. Northwestern never loses. Everyone talks about that team from Irmo that's on the other bracket about they never lose. Northwestern never loses, guys. It's rare for Northwestern to lose, especially in the playoffs. Any other thoughts from these two games here on the Upper State side?
That's a slugfest, Northwestern Gaffney.
I agree.
That's an all-time power matchup right there. I bet that game is going to be awesome. I hope to see the film of that one later here in a couple weeks. But T.O. Hanna, Indian Land ain't been this far in the playoffs, and they got to go to T.O. Hanna and play that wing T. That's got to be a tough task for Coach Hastings and the crew.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hard to prepare for that wing T offense. I like T.O. Hanna tonight, but I've been banging the Indian Land drum all season, guys. I just doubted them last week. I'll never doubt them again. I'll take Indian Land to beat T.O. Hanna tonight. All right, 5A Division I playoff bracket. It's the big bracket, but I like the games in the Division II bracket. But we get to Division I. Oh, gracious day! Dutch Fork is hosting Burns, and you're living in an alternate reality when Coach Reggie Shaw yesterday says it's kind of like David versus Goliath. And I thought, you're Burns. What world are we living in 2025? But that might be the case, guys. Can Trey Segura and this Burns offense, which took Irmo to the wire earlier this year and have just kind of hung around throughout this season, Dutch Fork is one win away from its 15th 10-win season in 16 years. That's just pure insanity what Coach Knotts is doing over there. Coach, you saw them up close and personal not too long ago. Odds of Burns giving them trouble and then getting a win tonight at Dutch Fork.
Well, all these teams I've either seen in person or seen on film, and Burns is good. Burns is really good. They had a lot of mistakes against Irmo after watching that film, but Dutch Fork is incredible. They're so well coached. They're so disciplined. Every kid in their program is bought into the mission that is being sold, and it shows with how they execute every Friday night. And, Burns, obviously it's a tough task, but they have speed. They have player makers everywhere, and they could, right? They've made it this far. Anyone could, but Dutch Fork is a machine, and they are motivated. They want to get another one.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Steve, any thoughts on Trey Segura and this Burns offense trying to pace with Dutch Fork tonight?
Burns is going to need a defensive performance like they did last week. Last week, they had 5 sacks against Rock Hill. I don't suspect that will be the same stat line this week because their Dutch Fork is so well balanced and they have a really good offensive line. But they also had 9 tackles for a loss, -10 rushing yards allowed. They're led by Justin Hopkins, Tyler Clark, and Nas Ingram on defense. And that absolutely, y'all mentioned Trey Segura. Everybody knows about Trey. And then they obviously have Jacoby Fuller and Shannon Harris as well offensively. Dutch Fork, Jackson Knox is extremely efficient. He's 14 touchdowns on the year, 3 interceptions, throws it very well. He and Stone Fury have a good connection. Dutch Fork is only allowing 13 on defense and 39, and they got 39 points per game on offense. But every game is different for that coaching staff. They treat every game that way, and every game plan, they want to do certain things for sure. They're going to be balanced, but they're going to do whatever it takes to win, as you've seen over the years. So
one point from that before we move to Ridgeview and Dorman, I want to mention here. Lou Bajak has this, and I want to give him credit for it. The Silver Foxes defense has only allowed 6 rushing touchdowns this season. And Burns is going to want to score on the ground. Trey Cigar is going to want to break a few out of here and try to get some points on the board himself. They've allowed 7 or fewer points in 4 of their last 6 games, have the Silver Foxes. So again, got to find a way. They've only allowed 6 rushing touchdowns this season, according to.
White had 3, I think. So
yeah, so White had half of them. So you're looking at a defense that is keyed up to stop the run. Ridgeview and Dorman. Now, how about this Ridgeview Blazers team, guys? I'm a big storyline guy. I can get into the X's and O's if you want, but let's talk storylines for a second. This Blazers team lost their starting quarterback for the season. They played with a backup quarterback who, after about 3 weeks, you're no longer the backup, right? You're the starter. But all they did was just continue to win. They took Dutch Fork to the wire, and they have just won and won and won. They started 2-2. They're now 8-3, and sitting here playing at Dorman Junior College for a chance to go play for an upper state championship.
Probably best Ridgeview team since the Kirk Burnett days in the early 2000s.
Ooh, look at that name. That's a name pull. That's a name pull, the Kirk Burnett days. This should be a really good one. Dorman won 42-20 in their last and only other meeting back in 2021. Ridgeview has not been to a state semifinal game since 2019. A chance to do that next week if they can get past Dorman and maybe get another shot at Dutch Fork, who knows. But we could also be set up for a Dorman Burns, which would just all of it. Give me every bit of it. Spencer Bobian, though, probably going to have to be the player of the game for Ridgeview if they want to win this one. 1,200 yards. He's scored at least a touchdown in 10 straight games. And how about this defense? That's the reason why this offense was able to sort of get itself along, Coach. When you have an offense that's learning how to play together under a new quarterback unexpectedly, you need to give them a little bit of grace week by week. Well, this Ridgeview team has done that, allowing just 14 points per game this season on the defensive side of the football. But this should be a great matchup, a hard-nosed fight coming our way from Dorman.
They scrimmaged earlier in the year, and Ridgeview handled them pretty good, but both teams are a lot different since August. So yeah. I imagine, you can't really take that result into account tonight, but it always helps your offense when your defense is doing such a great job. You start with the ball in good field position every time. Yeah, it's a lot easier to score from 50 yards than 80 yards.
No doubt about that. Carolina Forest is hosting Somerville. The Fighting Preston Thorns, the Green Wave, took care of Ashley Ridge. Sorry, Coach. Last week they scored a lot, and Ashley Ridge didn't score as much. And Carolina Forest did the same thing with Fort Dorchester. Carolina Forest quietly one of the best teams in the state. That's why they got that number 1 beside their name. And Somerville's trying to go on the road. They got to go up. They got to go up the coast a little bit. Take on Carolina Forest and the Panthers tonight, Steve. This is again another matchup that could be really fun. That's kind of getting overlooked by some other matchups across the state.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of this. And I'd love to hear Coach Fiddler's thoughts here. I mean, Somerville's obviously very good. They're back where they have been the last few years and going deep in the playoffs. And like I said last week, I wouldn't be surprised if Somerville won, because it's just hard to beat Somerville 2 times in the same season. Ashley Ridge won the first game really by a blowout. But both have good defenses in this. Carolina Forest is not as tested as Somerville as far as strength of schedule, in my opinion. So I'm not sure what to make of this, but Cameron Long for Carolina Forest is 1,700 yards passing and 27 touchdowns. Somerville's got Max Stafford about the same yards and then 19 touchdowns. And Somerville's Javen Williams has rushed for over 1,500 yards and 19 touchdowns as well. Pumped out 273 yards and 3 touchdowns last week against Ashley Ridge.
And one final matchup tonight, James Island goes to Stratford. Really quick, because we're up against it here. James Island double overtime win over Sumter, and Stratford wins it on a Hail Mary against River Bluff. Heartbreaking for Coach Parks and that River Bluff Gators squad. They had that game. But this should be a great one. I want to pick James Island in this one because I've got James Island going to play for a state championship. But man, Stratford has the pixie dust, Coach. And at some point, those teams of destiny just find ways to win in playoff situations and just continue to survive and advance.
They have the one quarterback in the state everybody else wishes they had, Jake and Davis. And now, if you remember sitting there week 1 or week 2 or whatever, I was at 107.5 the game with you, and they went up and beat Daniel, and I was on the Stratford bandwagon then, and I'll stay on it now. But James Island, they are they have been methodical, and they're built for November. So it should be another great football game.
Jamar McCoy doing a great job over there at James Island. They got a chance to reach the promised land here under his leadership. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Love the breakdowns as always. I look forward to chatting with you tonight to lead off the high school scoreboard show on 107.5 at 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. The show is great.
Absolutely.
We appreciate what you do for our state.
Absolutely. Best of luck to the Timberwolves tonight as they take on the Irmo Yellow Jackets. Enjoy your Friday night football tonight. Enjoy these matchups. There are a ton of good ones. The preview show, previewing the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina and the Gamecocks, is next on the Chief Sports Network with Jamie Bradford, Phil Molinax, J.C. Sherbert, and a cavalcade of guests. Steve, always enjoy it. Always a great time talking high school ball with you guys. We'll be back here next Friday, post-Turkey, out of the coma, talking upper and lower state championship games next Friday night. That'll be right here on Four Quarter Friday.
From the Low Country to the Upstate, from the Midlands to the PD, we've got you covered. This is our state. South Carolina matters to us. All of South Carolina. We love talking ball, and we love talking ball with you. Thank you for tuning in to the Four Quarter Friday High School Show. Every Friday at 9 a.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Now, back to Justin and Steve.